And we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Man, tonight I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm really trying to expand the podcast. And tonight I have a guy who ties hand-tied hair jigs. These are old school guys. These are the kind of stuff I used to use when I was a boy. And I tell you what, I just caught freaking fish when I was a boy. I didn't worry about all these electronics. I didn't worry about all this other stuff. I didn't worry about fishing tournaments, nothing. We just went out there and caught fish. So without further ado, I have Kenneth from Tiny's Hand-Tied Hair Jigs. How you doing tonight, Kenneth?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
You know, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. In fact, you know, I am honored to have a guy on who's as dedicated to tying hair jigs, because that's, man, you remember back those fishing magazines back in the 70s when one of the last pages, they had like 60 different colors of hand-tied hair jigs on them. And back then they would call them Marabou Jigs, but you know, you remember
still use a lot of Marabou.
Do you? And what does that
mean?
They
still use a lot of Marabou. I don't use as much of it as most, but they still use a lot of Marabou.
What does Marabou mean, man?
It's just simply a feather. It's a type of feather. It's a type of feather that they use that's supposed to hold up real well underwater and under the conditions that we put them under when it comes to fishing.
Okay, cool. I never knew that. I just knew that they caught fish into an 8-year-old boy. That's all that matters. You know.
Oh yes, sir.
You know, man, that's one of the reasons I fell in love with fishing is putting a Marabou jig underneath a cork that was probably about that big, and you had to watch it just, you know, when a crappie hit it, it barely moved, but we didn't know any better. You know, this was back in the 70s. You know.
Exactly.
Good times. You know, I wasn't in as good a place as you. I was up there in Madison, Wisconsin, but you know, there were crappies up there. They just weren't 15 inches like the lakes. Guys, yep. Tiny, why don't you tell us where you live?
I actually live in Oakland, Mississippi, which is about halfway between Grenada, Mississippi and Sardis, Mississippi, which is two of the top 2 lakes in the United States when it comes to crappie. They flip 3-pound crappies in the boat all day long around here.
You know what? That's like, I can't think of the word to describe that. If you're a crappie fisherman, I can't think of that's just heaven on earth to a crappie fisherman. It
is. It's the crappie holy land around here.
Yeah, I just couldn't think of the correct word, man. That's just. I'm gonna talk this way. It's just so freaking cool. You know.
It is. It's amazing. We had a tournament a couple of weeks ago. They weighed in a 3.6-pound crappie that won the big fish.
Jeez. Man. And you just happen to make hand-tied hair jigs. Do you have any that you can show the folks?
I do. I've got several I can show. You mentioned Marabou, and that's what you were talking about when you said Marabou.
Yeah, look at that, man. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get used to this because it's backwards, but you know.
Yeah, that's a white Marabou jig there.
Look at that. How long is that? Can you tell us about how many inches?
That's a chartreuse Marabou jig right there.
Is that about 1.5 inches?
This one here is probably closer to 2.5 inches. This one's a little bit shorter. These are both on a 1/8 head with a Mustad bronze J hook. One of the stronger hooks on the market, which we have to use around here because they both flip a lot of big crappie in this area. And then this is a smaller Marabou jig. This is on a 1/32 head.
Oh, there you go, man. Look at that little thing.
It's a little shorter.
Yeah.
But Jay, I tie all the way down to a 1/100th ounce.
A 1/100th ounce.
Yes, sir. You know, it's times of the year when the crappie are real finicky and they just don't want to bite a big bait. So you got to really step way down. Sometimes that means you got to put an egg weight on the main line in order to get it down there. But you got to get smaller bait in the water.
I was thinking maybe put that on a fly rod, and I'm not kidding, man. You know, it's fun to catch crappies on fly rods. You know.
Oh yeah, they use them on fly rods all the time, especially you know, we got a lot of waders around here that like to wade in Enid Lake and things of that nature, and they'll go out there with fly rods all the time. It's not unheard of at all around here.
Or they'll have an 18-foot long cane rod or cane pole, you know.
And they're still using those.
Yes, they are. I've seen them. You know, shoot, I use those to catch walleyes up in Lake Winnebago. you know, because you cannot put your boat in the cane beds. So you get an 18-foot long rod, and you know, and you just do that
There
around
was
the cane.
there was a crappie masters tournament on the St. Johns River about 3 weeks ago, and a couple locals won it in a 13-foot John boat, no electronics and cane poles. And they weighed in on a 2-day tournament almost 40 pounds or somewhere around there, 32 pounds, something like that. It was huge.
Old school, man. You know, I'm starting to get more into the old school ways of, you know, get back to my roots of fishing. It is cool, you know, lighter weight rods and, you know, lighter weight lines and less electronics, and
It
you know,
is.
it's just cool. In fact, I'm actually thinking about buying just an 18-foot skiff with like maybe a 75 horse on the back of it, rather than, you know, a big old tournament boat.
Well, some are getting back to that, but the electronics are right now is the way everybody's trying to head, and it's you know, I don't know, it's just another way of fishing.
It is. But look at what those old boys did on the St. John's. You know what you just discussed.
Yeah.
There is no substitute for local knowledge.
No, sir. Local knowledge is it.
That's what I liked about, you know, when I was guiding. I was on the same 3 bodies of water all summer long, almost every day of the summer, you know, for the entire, you know, open water season. And I still know those lakes better than 90% of the people who fish them. I haven't even been to them for 10 years, you know, but I still have that knowledge that you can only gain through being on the water every day, following the fish around.
That's why guides do so well tournament fishing, especially on their home lakes.
Yeah, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth, man. On their home waters, because the tournament pros, what they have is just 200 days on the water a year, but in all kinds of conditions. So they're all around great fishermen. I fished with those guys, and man, they're freaking good. God, it's when you're fishing back one of those guys, it's like they're going through with a seine. There's nothing left for you in the back seat. Even if you're just, even, you know, most of the time I was just there to report, you know, take pictures and write articles for magazines for them. You know, I still couldn't catch any fish in back of them.
They're amazing fishermen. They really are. There's a lot of amazing fishermen out there. A lot of amazing crappie fishermen. That's what got me into this.
Absolutely, man. Do you have any more of those things? You got me interested now, man. I want to see what you make.
I do. Let's see. I showed you those. You know, just some more the Marabou.
Ooh, look at that.
One of my biggest is I use a lot of synthetic hair.
Okay.
I use a lot of the synthetic hair because it does something different in the water than what the Marabou does, so and it just has a good wiggle. It does. It has a good wave with the flash there, and it really and it holds up well.
You know, that purple and pink were my 2 favorite colors for crappies when I was guiding. Those are my 2 go-to colors, particularly when I was fishing in deeper water. Pink, right. Pink just did it. You know, white for less than 3 feet, but when I was going down 25 feet, like in August, man, I wanted pink. And sometimes pink would even outfish, you know, fathead minnows.
Right. Well, especially in a clear fishery, pink is real good on a clear water fishery.
Sure.
Along with your whites and and then your natural and a lot of natural colors are really good on clear water fisheries.
But you know, I caught a lot of fish in a river on pink. Well, these were walleyes though, on pink rapalas. In fact, you know, I liked them so much I'd pay $10 a piece to have them repainted in pink. So I'm just telling you, yeah, I love your choice of colors, man.
Yes, sir. You mentioned walleye, and if I could, I was going to show you. These are some of the. These are some of the. They just got a little tangled on me. These are some of the synthetic hair I do, and these are actually bigger. These are actually bigger, and I do these for walleye fishermen.
Didn't you say that Dale Helgerson uses those?
Yes, sir.
Dale Helgerson is guys. For those of you who don't know, Dale Helgerson is a full-time walleye guide up in Wisconsin, and he also fishes the NWT, I believe, which is a National Walleye Tour with you know, and he's fishing against guys like Gary Parsons, Keith Cavallas, Ted Takasaki, just to name, you know, Marianne Husky, just to name a few. You know, those are and these are some of the biggest names. Isaac Lakich, biggest names in walleye fishing. Dale Helgerson is fishing against them, and Tiny ties his hand-tied jigs for him.
And there's another synthetic hair jig like I would send to Dale.
What size head is that?
That's a half-ounce football head, and they really like the football heads, especially up in your neck of the woods and in Wisconsin and areas. I guess they bang them off the rocks and things of that nature. Shoot docks with them.
They also bang those off they vertically jig those when they're slipping the current, like in the Illinois River on the sand bottom. They sit there with two rods, one in each hand, and going, man.
And I also put blades on these and turn them into chatterbaits for bass fishermen and things of that nature.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. A hand-tied chatterbait. There's something different. Don't tell everybody about that.
Yeah. I got a special one I do for a little young man named Robbie the Goose Henderson. He calls it the wacky goose.
The wacky goose. You got one of them on for you?
I don't have one of those handy. I wish I did, but it's a synthetic hair hand tied just like those football heads I showed you. It's just got a blade on the front for as a chatterbait blade on the front of it.
You know, something a little different like that. You know, that would be the ticket in a on the third day of a tournament when those fish have just been pounded for sometimes the entire summer in places like Chickamauga or, Lake Fork, places that just where they have like 5 tournaments going on every weekend of the summer. Man, you get something a little different that they haven't seen before. That's going to be the ticket. And
Lake Fork tears up the synthetic hair. The fish on Lake Fork just really tear it up. Yes, sir. And then you got little buzz baits.
Woo! Look at that, man. How wow. That is a little, but I like that. That would be something very good in clear water.
Yes, sir. Very good in clear water.
Actually, I've spent most of my life up in northern Wisconsin, or in southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, but now I live down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But something that size, that would be great for throwing them around, with different colors. It'd be great for throwing them around the cypress stumps that we have around here. Because, you're going to have, 300 cypress knees around every cypress tree. And they don't all hold fish.
No, they don't.
It's hard for me to fathom that you could see such great structure and no fish. But, something like that's just different and just making the little buzz as you go through the water. Man, I'm telling you what, you got some good baits there.
And I also offer for the finicky fish, I tie on this small 1/8 head, and it's got a number 6 hook in it. I'm sorry, number 8 hook in this one. And it's for the finicky fish that wants a small bite, but you need the heavy head to get it deep.
That's a little bitty hook, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's a little number 6 brim hook, or a number 8 brim hook. That's a number 8. I'm sorry.
8. Yeah, that's a little bitty thing. Look at that little bitty thing, man. Dang. I know it's so hard to get used to this camera. Everybody has problems. Yeah, I still have problems with it. I do it almost every night.
But
so guys, if you want to see his entire inventory, go to this Facebook page I have on my crawler tonight. Tiny's hand-tied hair jigs, and you can communicate with him, with Tiny directly, ask him questions about his products, and go from there. See if I'm sure some of this stuff's going to interest you. If you're a crappie,
I do a lot of custom too, Jay, for those that fish certain colors and just have they're a lot of fishermen are set in their ways. They want to use just orange or orange with a pink head. I'll tie anything you want. You contact me and you tell me what you like to fish, and I'll tie it. You want to send me a picture of your favorite soft plastic? I'll emulate it and tie something in the colors that are in that soft plastic. I do a lot of custom, and I tie whatever the client wants. I have I can do several hundred different color schemes.
Several hundred, huh? Wow. And okay, let's go over this now. What weights do you tie between?
in a round head, I can tie 1/100th ounce, a 1/80th ounce, a 1/64th ounce, a 1/32nd ounce, 1/16th, 1/8, 1/4, 3/16. I have football heads that I tie 1/32nd, 1/16th, and 1/4, a half, and a 3/4 when you get into bass. I tie the pill heads 32nd, 16th, and 8th, and I tie hatchet heads 1/32nd, 1/16th, and 1/8.
There you go. See, that's man, and you hand paint your own.
I use a powder paint, and I paint all my own heads. I have probably 15 different color heads I can do.
Wow, so 15 different color heads, probably 100 different colors of the skirts, huh?
At least.
And then of the body, you have several different colors of that too, don't you?
Yes, sir. I can do probably 20, probably 20 different color bodies at least.
Wow. So guys, I mean, there is so much variety here, and I haven't seen this type of jig offered in a long time. That excites me, man. This just takes me back to my roots of fishing. I've been thinking about my roots a lot lately, going out fishing with Dad in northern Wisconsin and driving 4 hours to catch fish, crappies. And I thought, man, I can catch crappies, Dad, 10 miles away from here at the local parks. And Dad would say, well, there's just something about being in the North Woods. And, now I agree, there's just something about being up in the North Woods with Dad when I was young, and that's why this is such, man, a trip down memory lane for me looking at those things. Because we had those old Plano boxes, and he had one full of these kind of jigs that you have, because he liked to catch crappies so much. So
it's nothing like getting out there with my wife on a daily basis whenever we have time. She's an avid fisherman, just like I love to fish, and we live in our motor home, and we live on whatever lake we want to live on at particular time. And so we moved from Sardis to Grenada to Enid to Arcabutla. We got lakes all over the place here, and we just love to fish. And that's what got me into working with the baits, because I just love to fish. There's nothing like fishing.
Well, that's great. Guys, if you're watching this, go ahead and ask us a question or leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We got a couple of guys. They're popping in and out, Tiny.
Yes, sir.
We'd love to talk to you guys, but if you just want to sit there and listen, that's cool too. That's cool. I'm just glad you're here. So tell me, you're doing a fundraiser now, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You're doing a fundraiser now?
We're doing a little fundraiser for Robbie the Goose Henderson, who's a 13-year-old autistic bass fisherman. And I think he's been on your show, as a matter of fact, Jay. I think they told me he's been on with you a couple times.
Several times, yeah.
And Robbie has been, he's fishing the National Bass Tours National Championship down in Wheeler Lake in Rogersville, Alabama in June, but was just recently invited to fish in the inaugural season, the first season of the ABT, which is the American Bass Trail, who is owned by the same people that do the American Crappie Trail, and it's in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. He's going to be going down to fish a March tournament there and an April tournament there. And so I've been working with MC Norris at Fishing for Autism. There's a couple raffles going on his Fishing for Autism page to try to raise some finances for Robbie. I did the Grizzly Jig Show, which is a crappie show that they do every year. It's a spring tackle show in Caruthersville, Missouri this past weekend. And I got a T-shirt signed by all the who's who in crappie fishing, from Mr. Crappie Wally Marshall to Capson Coleman to Stephen Abernathy, all the big names in the industry. And that T-shirt is up for raffle, along with some baits and different things. And for the collector, or the person that loves to collect fishing memorabilia, it'd be something good to have and put in your collection, because it's signed by a lot of the greats.
So where would somebody go to get information or to enter this raffle?
they could go to Fishing for Autism, F4A on Facebook, and all the rules and everything to how to get involved in that is on there. And or you could go to Robbie's Goose Fishing Adventures on Facebook. That's the page for Robbie the Goose Henderson. I believe his dad has all the information on there with everything that they're doing to try to help this young man.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, Robbie has been on my show a few times, and MC Norris is a regular on my show. I do everything I can to support MC Norris. I think he's one of the better people I've ever met. In fact, I just talked to him today for about 30 minutes. You know, we talk about twice a week on the phone, you know.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I've talked to him a few times on the phone, and I'm actually planning to be at Lake of the Ozarks in March, get a chance to meet Robbie and his dad.
And I'm sure you're going to do some crappie fishing too, if I know you.
You know, and I may not. The funny story is I don't crappie fish as much as most. I'm a crafter, and I love the art of tying the bait. I do a lot of brim fishing, which a lot of my jigs are with the 1/100th ounce, 1/80th ounce, 1/64th ounce are great for catching brim. And we do a lot of brim and bass fishing and cat fishing, and we do crappie fishing. It's just not an everyday thing for me.
Do you sell a lot of those smaller jigs to ice fishermen?
I actually do sell some to ice fishermen. Being where I'm located, ice fishing is not a big thing. But I am located in a tackle store in Cascade Lake, Idaho, where Cascade Lake, where they catch a lot of yellow perch and things.
Big
and they like my small jigs for catching yellow perch.
Big yellow perch. Some of the biggest in the world are up there.
Yes, sir.
Lake, Idaho, man. I heard about that from a guy named, one of my good guys whose name is Todd has been there, and he sent me pictures, and he said, check out these perch. I couldn't say anything.
They look to me like they're part of the brim family, but I understand they're not. But they're huge. They are really nice fish.
And you know, those yellow perch through the ice is probably it's a gift. It's a gift. I mean, it's some of the best meat you'll ever taste. You know, and I fished from Alaska down to Key West, Florida, and most of the places in between, all over Canada. And I've had all kinds of different fish, from ocean fish to yellow perch are one of my favorites. Because so are crappies, you know. But
they've had some luck ice fishing with them, bringing in trout and some steelhead and walleye and kokanee. With the small jigs.
Yeah, I believe there is. I'm going to send this podcast to a couple of my friends who are ice fishermen, see if they're interested in it. You know,
they've been using them, quite a few of them up there for ice fishing in Idaho and Minnesota and Wisconsin and places like that.
Sure, I know a lot of ice fishermen up there, so lots of them. So wow, that's just great. Do you have any other jigs you want to show us?
Yeah, I've got guys fishing this stuff in Canada for bass and perch and things of that nature. Even Jay, yeah, I do a lot of the chartreuse. This is like a 1/16 chartreuse in the synthetic hair.
Ooh, yeah, nice little thing right there.
And then what's been really popular as of late is the blue and gold. The crappie are really loving that this time of the year. The gold head with the blue tail, blue body, and the gold flash on the back of it.
Sure.
It's probably one of my most popular right now, and I believe that's all I've got out here right now.
Well, that's okay, man. But you know, thank you for coming on and showing us your inventory, man. Showing us what you have available to the fishermen. You know, those things are just To an old fisherman
No,
like me, the works of art, man.
it's it's amazing the what you can do with a little bit of hair and a jig head, and some thread. I don't use all the same stuff that a lot of your tires use, because I've got a guy who will tell you he's a tournament fisherman and he practices and does all his practice fishing and his tournament fishing. But I got him a jig back in June of last year, and he put it on a pole. That same jig is still on that same pole in his boat. He uses that same jig every practice session, every tournament, at some point, to see if they'll hit that particular jig that day. But it hits the water at least once every tournament, every practice. And he'll tell you he's probably caught 800 fish on that jig, and that same jig is still fishing. I use a high quality Gorilla Glue, clear Gorilla Glue. I use a higher, thicker thread than what most use, because I want it to hold up better. I use a little stronger body material.
I find it incredible that guy hasn't lost that jig to a piece of wood yet. Crappie fishing, that's just part of crappie fishing. If you're not losing bait, you're not fishing where the fish are at. That's what I always used to tell people who I would guide. Oh man, I'm snagged again. Don't even worry about that. I got like 300 jigs. That's what I would tell them. And if I run out of jigs, we're just going to start throwing out hooks and fathead minnows.
I have guys call me and order 300, 150 to 300 jigs, all the, and send me payment, and just to stock up, because you got to. When you're fishing crappie, you typically will lose jigs. He's just been lucky with that one. And most people I ask them, how long does one of my jigs last you? And they say, till I lose it in a tree.
Absolutely. Until the wood gets it.
Exactly.
You got to make some
hang it on a rock, or hang it in a tree, or something under the water,
or a fish crib. I remember when I was guiding, we'd go out on the ice and put more fish cribs in. And every time I lost one, I said, that's my own fault, because I was the guy who put that crib here. Stacking the deck is what I call that, because the crappie,
well, they do the same thing around here. I've heard of them doing it. I haven't seen it. Can't say I've seen them do it, but I've heard of them doing it, going out when the water's down, when they do a winter runoff at the lakes or something. They do a winter runoff and the water's low. They find a time to go out there and try to get in some brush or some kind of something they've built that the fish will get around when the water's back up, and they'll know where to go fishing. But most of the time they lose more jigs on the one they put there than the ones that were there naturally.
Yep. When my dad retired, he moved up to northern Arkansas, and he had his own little lake with like five other houses on it. And in the bay he lived in, I went out there. He had a pontoon boat at the time, and I put over 100 of those things in there. I said, Daddy, I'm gonna make it so that you're gonna catch fish in this bay. He said, I've never caught a fish in this bay. I'm like, yeah, watch this. He liked the fish, but I'm obsessed with it. So, well, yes, hey man, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do? Any thank yous to people, organizations, companies?
All my clientele, anybody who's ever bought a jig from me, I want to thank you. Just the ability to be able to get jigs out there in the industry and to do what I enjoy doing. And the pros that use my stuff, from Stephen Sullivan and Jamie Roberson out of Batesville, Mississippi, to Steve Coleman out of Tennessee, and just so many of them. All the ones that I met this weekend at the Grizzly Jig Show: Stephen Abernathy, Brian Fondo, Charlie Bunton out of Missouri. There's just a bunch of them.
Okay.
Mike Meeks out of Oklahoma. If you live in Oklahoma and you're visiting Oklahoma and you wanna go out on a guided trip, Slab and Mike Meeks at Slab and Mike's guide service is one of the best. He's a pro staffer of mine, uses a lot of my baits on the water, and he catches fish every day, all day long. And some of the biggest in the state of Oklahoma. He just gets out there and really grinds it, and he knows his business. So if you're going to Oklahoma and you want to get out on Eufaula or Oogala or one of the big lakes there, you want to talk to Slab and Mike's guide service. If you're going to come down and you want to get a trip out on Grenada or Sardis or any of the lakes around here, you can contact me. There's some great guides in the area. Ask around. The guy's name is David Morgan's one of the best in the industry down here. So if you want to get out on Grenada or Sardis or any of the lakes in North Mississippi, he's the man to take you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Tiny, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to our listeners right here on the Let's Talk Fishing podcast.
Well, Jay, I appreciate you having me. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yes, you will definitely do this again sometime. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. Again, my name is Jay Angel. I was your host, and with very special guest, Tiny from Tiny's Hand-Tied Hair Jigs. Visit Tiny's Hand-Tied Hair Jigs on Facebook in that self-titled Facebook page. And with that, I'm going to bid everybody a good night.